I'll do you today. How about that?
Are we good to go?
Sorry.
All right. We will formally call the Cannabis Compliance Board meeting to order for the August 24th, 2021 meeting. First order of business is roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Member Jerry Merritt.
Present, finally.
Member Dennis Nylander. Member Nylander, can you hear us?
I can now. Thank you. Yes, I'm here.
Got it. Member Rihanna Durrett.
Here.
Member Young.
Present.
All right, and Chairman Douglas.
Present.
Great. Deputy Bala, can you please confirm that we have complied with the open meeting law requirements?
We have Director Klimas.
Thank you. So, Chair, with your approval, we can get started with agenda item number 1, which is public comment.
Please go forward.
Great. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to provide public comment? Chair, I don't see any public comment today.
Go to our written comment.
Great. So any public comment that we receive before the start of the meeting or during the meeting will be posted online as meeting materials following the meeting. So with that, I believe we can go to agenda item number 2, approval of meeting minutes.
We have before us meeting minutes. Item A, consideration for approval of July 27th, 2021 Cannabis Compliance Board meeting minutes. And item number B, so we can take them together, consideration for approval of July 29th, 2021 Cannabis Compliance Board emergency meeting minutes. So if members have had an opportunity to review those, if we can have a motion for approval of both items A and B.
Member Durrett, for the record, I move to approve items A and B, the meeting minutes from July 27 and July 29.
Member Merritt, I second.
We have a motion, we have a second, we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of approval, please say aye.
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 Note there are no nays and no abstentions. Matter is passed. Moving to item 3, consent agenda. We have 2 complaints to be put before us.
Thank you, Chair. So on the agenda concerns 2 complaints for disciplinary action pursuant to NRS 678A510. The Attorney General has reviewed these violations and has recommended proceeding with disciplinary action. As I stated at our last meeting, AB 49 has passed and been approved, so it's now in effect. Section 1.3 of that bill modifies NRS to allow for the executive director to serve disciplinary complaints. Under 678A510, the board must still grant approval to proceed with disciplinary action. So again, I'll be requesting the board approve to proceed with each of these 2 disciplinary actions, and then I'll authorize service of the complaints. Just as a note, we're not required to immediately serve both complaints today. So once the board, or if the board approves proceeding with disciplinary action, service will proceed within a reasonable time. Once they're out for service, we will post them on the website. So as to respondent A, the complaint will allege violations of the following regulations: NCCR Regulation 4, NCCR Regulation 6, NCCR Regulation 9, and NCCR Regulation 10. As to respondent B, the complaint will allege violations of the following statutes and regulations: NCCR Regulation 4 and NCCR Regulation 6. So, Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. We have heard the recommendation, which comports with the statute. If we can have a motion for approval of either both together or separately.
Mr. Chairman, this is Member Nylander. I would move that we approve agenda items 3A, 1, and 2 as stated on the agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Member Merritt, I second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded as to for approval of the service of complaints under A 3, 1, and 2. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of approval of this item, please say aye.
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 Aye. We have concurrence with ayes, no nays, no abstentions. This matter is passed and carries for service.
Thank you, Chair. Moving on to agenda item number 4. This is a request for transfer of interest. Chief Dave Staley will present this item. Chief Staley, when you're ready.
Good morning. Chair Douglas, Member Merritt, Member Nylander, Member Durrett, and Member Young. For the record, I'm David Staley, Chief of Investigations for the CCB. I'm here to present agenda item number 4, which consists of one transfer of interest or TOI application. After this item has been completed, I'd like to provide a brief update on the status of TOI applications affected by the extended review period. Item A is a TOI application for EMK Hydro Gardens LLC or EMK. TOI 18024 requests approval from existing owners Michael Bizdak, Elad Beiser, Katarzyna Bizdek Purdue to sell a portion of their shares to new shareholders Jackie Beiser, Jeffrey Malinovitz, Steve Erickson, and Carlos Hernandez for approximately $320,000. The proceeds from the sale of ownership will provide additional capital for EMK to use for potential expansion. The new members will not be involved in day-to-day operations, but will be passive investors. In addition, EMK has requested waivers pursuant to NCCR 5.112 and 5.125 of the requirements of NCCR 5.110 regarding a review of all owners. EMK has adequately addressed the items required in NCCR 5.112 and 5.125 to allow the board to approve such waivers. Staff suggests that if approved, the board limit EMK's 5112 and 5125 waivers to expire on such agenda date as EMK's next TOI application is heard. Staff identified no areas of concern with this application. I'm available for any questions, and my understanding is that Ali Palmer and Michael Bizdak are present to provide a brief presentation to the board to address any questions you may have as well. With that, Chair Douglas, I'll turn this item back to you.
Thank you. Do we have our licensees present? Either in person or via Zoom?
Good morning. So we are requesting this TOI in order to bring on new owners as passive investors, so they won't have a physical part in the company itself in the cultivation process. And we're doing this in order to raise working capital to fund ongoing operations and in order to raise capital improvement of the company.
Any questions? Any of the board members?
Just a quick question, Mr. Chairman. This is Member Nylander. So it looks like this is essentially a member-to-member transfer. There's no additional equity being distributed out of the company.
Mike, are you able to speak on that? Your microphone is muted.
Sorry, yeah, it's a member-to-member transfer. There's no additional equity.
Okay, so in exchange for the capital infusion, the existing controlling members will have some dilution, but they've decided to go ahead and do that for the benefit of the new capital.
Correct.
And it looks like from the financials, the company's doing pretty well, had a good year. And so these capital infusions will also shore up the balance sheet. And I noted that both the income statements were year over year, company's doing very well. What is the planned use of the capital, the new capital?
To do equipment improvements and for day-to-day operations.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any of the other board members wish to ask any questions?
What was your name? I missed it. And
My
your
name
role?
is Ali Palmer. I'm the AGM for the company.
Oh, okay. All right. Do you have an attorney? Does the company have an attorney helping handle the transfer? I'm not sake? I'm
Yes.
just wondering, were they not able to appear today or?
No, we did have, he was scheduled to appear, but he did request that he wasn't able to make it, so we request a excuse.
Okay, I'm just curious.
It's
So
a good way
so
good way to save some of that capital, right?
Yep.
thanks.
Just noting for the record, this is a transfer of interest with no areas of concern noted by our investigation. We appreciate how you've been conducting your operation. With that, do we have a motion for approval with the waivers?
Mr. Chairman,
Member- Go ahead.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're better at it than I am.
There's no better. I'll stumble over it if you don't mind. I would move for approval of this transfer of interest agenda item, and that would be conditioned that well, there's waivers stated in so they're with respect to NCCR 5.112 and 5.125 that they be conditioned to expire on such agenda date as the company's next TOI application is heard.
That's properly stated. Thank you. Do we have a second as to that motion?
Member Durrett, I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion so stated, please say
Aye.
aye. We have no nays, no abstentions. This motion carries. TOI is approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Now for your update.
Good morning again. Chair Douglas, Member Merritt, Member Nylander, Member Durrett, and Member Young. For the record, I'm David Staley, Chief Investigator of the CCB. As you're aware, on October 11th of 2019, the Department of Taxation instituted an extended review period by announcing that the Marijuana Enforcement Division would not process any new or existing TUI applications until it could complete a more thorough and appropriate vetting process. On July 21st of 2020, you lifted that extended review period and directed CCB staff to begin processing TUI applications. As of July 21st, 2020, there were approximately 92 to 100 outstanding, distinct pending transfer of interest requests, representing 58, I think I had originally calculated 55, but 58 parent companies that these were placed on hold when the extended review period was put in place. In some cases, a single parent company would have filed 5 to 6 different TUI applications based on the transactions that they needed approval for. In addition, during calendar year 2020 and 2021, another approximately 60 TUI or 5110 waiver applications have been filed. Today, I want to inform you that your investigation agents have completed or started processing every single one of those extended review TUIs. There are not many opportunities to recognize how hard our investigators work. So I'd like our investigators in Las Vegas to stand and let you know that our Carson City investigations and staff are present via Zoom. Although I'm chief of the investigations division, the work on these TOIs could not have been completed without the efforts of your investigations division, with some early assistance from Chief Gilbert. Remember, these agents have had to learn a process that simply did not exist 1 year ago, and their hard work is reflected in each of the investigative reports we submit to you every month. CCB staff began submitting TOI applications for your consideration at your August 2020 meeting, and since then, you have acted on approximately 34 of those applications from the extended review period, another 14 that arose from the partial settlement agreement from the licensing lawsuit. In addition, 6 company TOIs that had been submitted after the extended review period were processed, some to complete some administrative cleanup, some due to pressing time limitations for investing stockholders completing estate planning during a terminal illness, and some due to financial restructuring or bankruptcy restructuring. There are currently 6 of the extended review period TOIs on hold and 18 in process. Of those 18, approximately 3 are being worked on by each agent. The 6 TOIs have been placed on hold due to litigation to resolve ownership or similar issues, or we're simply waiting for additional information on some complicated issues. That means that staff has completed 54 company transfers of interest, representing over 100 separate distinct TOI applications, and submitted them to you for action since August. And staff is processing the balance of the TOIs impacted by the extended review period. I anticipate that 15 to 18 of the remaining TOIs will be submitted for your review in the next 2 to 3 months. And we are now starting exclusively working on processing the new applications that occurred during fiscal 20 and 21. Can I answer any questions?
If there's no question by board members, on behalf of the board, I would thank the investigations unit for their diligence and their thoroughness in the investigations. As you indicated, this has been a new process and it's been very important. And we have gone from kind of a one-wheel baby buggy to a jet car recently, with publicly traded companies coming into play and whatnot, and the complexity of the newer transactions that are coming on with the new companies that are coming in from across the border and nationally. So your thoroughness and your ability to answer our questions or go back and do secondary checking is greatly appreciated. And I would say it's appreciated by the public or the state of Nevada as well, because the cannabis industry, much like our gaming industry, it's very important to know who's involved and what they are doing, and sometimes why they are doing it. And we thank you for that work.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
We have item number 5, approvals and resolutions, notice of final licensure.
Thank you, Chair. So for agenda item number 5, we have Chief Gilbert here to present on 2 items today. Chief Gilbert, when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Steve Gilbert, Chief of Administration, for the record. Agenda 5A is an informational item presented as a notice to the board of establishments that have been issued their final license since the last board meeting. We have 2 licenses to note today. Number 1 is Euphoria Wellness, LLC, T027, distributor license. On August 25th, 2017, Euphoria Wellness, LLC was issued a conditional license for an adult use distributor facility in the city of Las Vegas. On July 19th, 2019, the Marijuana Enforcement Division of the Department of Taxation conducted a pre-opening inspection and audit of the facility. The inspection and audit results revealed no deficiencies with NRS 453D and NAC 453D. A follow-up pre-opening inspection and audit was conducted by the CCB on July 30th of 2021. The inspection and audit results revealed no deficiencies with the NCCR and Title 56 of NRS. A statement of no deficiencies was issued on July 30th of 2021. And a result, the CCB approved and issued a final distributor license to Euphoria Wellness, LLC T027 on August 4th of 2021. Item number 2 is for Pure Growers, LLC, C200, RC200, P137, and RP137, medical and adult use cultivation and production licenses. On April 11th of 2018, Pure Growers LLC was issued a conditional medical cultivation and production license. And on August 31st of 2018, Pure Growers LLC was issued a conditional adult use cultivation and production license, all to be located in Battle Mountain in Lander County. On February 2nd of 2021, the CCB conducted a pre-opening inspection and audit of the facilities located in Battle Mountain. The inspection and audit results revealed that the facility was in compliance with NCCR and Title 56 of NRS. A statement of no deficiencies was issued on April 8th of 2021 by the CCB, and as a result, the CCB approved and issued final licenses to Pure Growers LLC on July 22nd of 2021. With that, Chair and members of the board, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Question by the board members as to either one of those. No questions. Thank you very much.
Great. So we'll move on to agenda item number 6. This is the briefing to the board regarding the January 19th, 2021 workshop. This item has come up in front of the board a number of times. This deals with remediation of cannabis products. So with that, I will turn it over to Member Young, who will make a short presentation on this.
Great. Thank you, Director Klimas, Chairman, and fellow board members. So after reviewing the information from the workshop and the subsequent materials, also listening to members from the industry regarding remediation, the cannabis, as well as consumers, I'm going to recommend that we amend Regulation 12.0625. From the feedback I received from the members of the industry and consumers, clearly everybody wants transparency and to keep the consumer informed. I think that this is obviously important. I think the regulation will need to change and focus on basically 3 areas. One, it needs to continue to focus on remediation. I think it needs to address all forms of remediation. And third, I think it needs to include appropriate labeling for consumer information. And I think the proposed changes will meet these needs. Director Klimas has informed me that the proposed changes will be posted for review by everyone after today's meetings. If anybody has any questions or anything, I'm certainly, or if Ms. Kara Cronkite has any input, I would certainly open it to her.
Dr. Young, was there anything that really stood out for you as you were working on this with the members of the industry?
Excuse me, I couldn't hear you.
I was asking if anything really stood out to you as you were working with the members of the industry.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think the thing that stands out the most is the remediation process is safe to the product. It's safe to those working in remediation, and it definitely reduces contamination. I mean, that is something that we definitely see. It might be a little more debatable on if it has any changes to the actual product. But in terms of working with the industry, they were very forthcoming and offered a tremendous amount of information.
Any other board member have any general questions for Dr. Young, understanding that the changes will be posted following this meeting, proposed changes? All right, thank you, Dr. Young.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Chair, and just so these changes will be posted along with a 30-day notice of adoption. So that will take place. The vote on the change will take place at next month's board meeting.
And just a caveat, if anyone has any concerns once they're posted, please make sure you send its written comments.
Great, Chair. We'll move on to agenda item number 7. This is the consideration of suspended enforcement of NCCR 13.025 sub 5. The board will remember this is the petition on the 2-driver rule. This came about from the petition on the 2-driver rule. So with that, I will turn it over to Deputy Director Michael Miles, who will carry this item.
Good morning, Chair and members of the board. For the record, my name is Michael Miles. I'm the Deputy Director of the Cannabis Compliance Board. As previously discussed, Blackbird Logistics submitted an NCCR 4.14 petition requesting a change to the 2-driver rule under NCCR 13.025 section 5 to a single driver. During the July board meeting, the board approved an amendment to NCCR 13.025 section 5, change the circumstances in which 2 drivers are required to distribute cannabis. The change became effective on August 11th and will be uploaded on the CCB website shortly. In conjunction with this petition, The board granted emergency relief for the two-driver rule due to COVID-19 and has waived the requirement for a limited time. Due to the surge in COVID-19 cases, Blackbird Logistics requests an additional extension to the enforcement of the amended regulation. Staff is present to answer any questions the board may have, and a representative of Blackbird Logistics, Jennifer Galliani, is present via Zoom to provide further details and to make the request in person.
Okay, I would ask that the board hold their questions of staff at this point, and let's hear from our representative from Blackbird at this point in terms of continued requests for continuation.
Yes, thank you.
Stay.
So as Michael summarized, we are continuing to ask for an extension of the waiver for this two-driver rule. We thought we were at the end of the tunnel here with COVID, and unfortunately, over the past 6 weeks, we have had 13 positive cases of COVID with the Delta variant. We lasted almost over a year of this entire pandemic being safe and having our drivers healthy. But then this Delta variant has just wiped us out. So we continue to ask for this extension. I would say of the 13, 8 of those 13 were in our Las Vegas warehouse, which effectively shut down quite a bit of our operations in that warehouse. We had to fly people down from Reno to cover that. So we're not done yet. We're not out of the woods here. As long as we can prevent 2 people from being in a closed cab, the better. So if we can continue to extend it as the Delta variant is still very much present, that would be our request for now.
Question by board members of either the requester or staff. I have a question. What policy is your company taking in terms of either vaccinations or continued testing or whatever to alleviate the problem you're having?
We require mandatory testing every week for every non-vaccinated employee. If you are vaccinated or begin your vaccination, you receive a 100 cash bonus. So we are incentivizing and also making it difficult for non-vaccinated staff to, not difficult, but creating requirements for testing every single week if you are not vaccinated. We have not implemented a mandatory vaccine for our operational staff at this time. However, if you are a new hire, you are required to be fully vaccinated. And we continue to do fully masked at all times, regardless of vaccination status.
Do we have other board members with any questions they wish to ask?
Mr. Chairman, this is Member Nylander. If I could follow up on your question.
Please.
Yes, Ms. Galliani, I'm just curious, of the 13 who tested positive, how many were vaccinated versus non-vaccinated?
There was definitely a mixture of vaccinated versus not vaccinated. I don't think I have that number for you off the top of my head, but it didn't matter. Didn't matter if you were fully vaccinated or not.
Okay, so it was across the board kind of.
Yes.
And also, and I recognize you don't have a crystal ball or anything, but how long do you, if the board were to support an extension, what sort of does it look like for you in terms of time, if you can tell at all?
Yeah, I mean, we're basing it off of the reported case rate, right? So as long as we're still expecting this continuous peak through, I think they're saying October, right, as the new trajectory. Like you said, I wish I could see the end. I thought we were there. I was extremely proud of us making it through the entire pandemic without a single case in our operations. And it was disheartening to have this happen so late with the Delta variant and our vaccinations happening. I think masks are the biggest deal. We did relax our mask mandate once vaccinations started happening. So if you were fully vaccinated, you did not have to wear a mask in the warehouse. I think that led to some of this, in addition to the Delta variant being extremely contagious.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Chairman, I have
In
more
light
a
of-
comment than a question.
Dr. Young?
This is Dr. Young, this is Brian. Yeah. I mean, I think our reality is, we're going to have to learn to live with COVID. And obviously we're in the midst of a surge with Delta. But I mean, COVID is going to become part of our lives. And as we get closer to cold and flu season, certainly influenza is right around the corner. I certainly appreciate the surge that we're going through now. I don't know at what point do we say, look, the infectious diseases that are in our community, how is that going to impact on how we, regulate these cases in terms of two driver or other. It's more of a comment about, I think COVID is here to stay.
I think we fully agree with that sentiment. We don't want to continue operating. I think for us, so long as I have to pull that staff off for 14 days of quarantine is the linchpin here. So if we could continue to operate with even a positive case, just like we operate with flu, that person goes home until they feel better, then that would be less of an issue. But because I have to pull that staff person off of my operation for an entire 2 weeks, that is the linchpin there of how we can't operate like it is a cold or flu.
Anyone else have anything? I'm going to step out on the proverbial limb, so to speak. I note that we had passed a change in our driver rules in terms of distancing and such. In light of what has been going on and the new approval, federal approval, one of our vaccines and such, and employers taking measures as to their employees, as well as the new social gathering in large groups and so on, that we extend till our next meeting and see where we're at that time. But at some point in time, we do have to move forward. So I would make a motion to continue at this our waiver, our new existing for 30 days. Our next meeting, 30 days to our next meeting, and we'll consider the next date. I'm looking at the next date to go forward, and it's up to our folks in the industry, unless something really changes, to get their houses in order. That would be my motion.
Chairman, may I ask a question for Jennifer? I didn't see in the written materials yet, and maybe I missed it. Were you able to, and my question is, before I vote, I wanted to get the answer to this. Were you able to get any materials that I suggested from someone in security or law enforcement discussing whether or not two drivers is safer than one driver, or whether one driver is just as safe as two drivers?
Related to the formal petition, the folks that I was able to pull were the representatives from State Farm Insurance and Invictus. So security and
Invictus. I didn't see that. Okay. And that's kind of what I had in mind. I know they have expertise in security. So I missed that. Could you resubmit that?
Yeah, it is part of the formal comment with attached letters from those two representatives that go into detail. I can resubmit that comment letter to you directly, or do you want me to resubmit formally a comment letter?
Yeah, just send it to me. I don't know if it, thanks.
Member Durrett, we'll make sure you get a copy of that.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second to that motion?
I second the motion.
Any additional discussion this time? No additional discussion. All in favor of the motion to extend for 30 additional days or till our next meeting date, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions? Motion is carried.
Thank
Okay, Chair, moving on to agenda item number 8. This is the Cannabis Advisory Commission updates and actions. So I have some updates for the board today. At last month's board meeting, we talked about the establishment of the advisory commission. It was underway, and then the establishment of a number of subcommittees as well through the commission. Happy to report that the subcommittees will begin their work this week. Tomorrow, starting at 10:30 a.m. is the subcommittee on public health, and at 1 p.m. is the subcommittee on public safety. Next week, the subcommittee on social equity will meet for the first time. So they are underway. Their role in the near term, obviously, is to develop some recommendations for the Greater Commission on consumption lounges that the board will use during a lounge workshop. The subcommittees will meet over the next couple months, and this will end again in a advisory commission meeting, hopefully sometime in October, November, to vote to send those recommendations up. I would like to take this opportunity to again encourage participation from the public, from our stakeholders at tomorrow's meeting. These notices are posted online. There's some discussion draft material. And so again, especially with consumption lounges, the input from the public and the industry is going to be very important as we promulgate these regulations over the next several months. So that's really all I have for updates and actions. I certainly look forward to updating the board next month on how these subcommittees went. So with that, I can answer any questions on the CAC.
There's no questions.
Okay, so moving on, agenda item number 9. This is the briefing to the board from the executive director. I've got a few items to talk about today. The first one is on the addition of some new staff to the CCB, to the agency last Wednesday, the 18th. This agency had a request in front of the interim finance committee for 23 new full-time positions. This request came from the passage of Assembly Bill 341, which authorized consumption lounges. So these positions would help facilitate the implementation and then ultimately the regulation and oversight of consumption lounges. All 23 positions were approved on Wednesday. We will add these positions staggered over the next 9 months. This is significant for this agency. We take our total FTEs, so full-time equivalents, to 93 by the end of the fiscal year. When we started this transition to the CCB, we were at 45. We then went to 60 when the CCB was fully authorized. We went to 70 during this past legislative session to the budget, and now we'll be at 93. So significant growth, needed growth, and I think a recognition that an investment in this agency is appropriate and very important to keep us on that path to being the gold standard in cannabis oversight and regulation. So moving on to consumption lounges. At the last board meeting, we talked about a letter that we sent to all adult use retail stores indicating they may qualify, and then asking for a letter of intent back, indicating to us that they plan to apply and open a consumption lounge. I believe when I updated this board, we were at just under 20 letters with a couple days left in our deadline. At the end of the deadline, we are now at 59 letters of intent for adult use stores who've indicated they would like to proceed with applying and opening a consumption lounge. So I don't think anybody is surprised, but there is a lot of interest in this program. But we do now have an idea of who's in the game. We have an opportunity here to get some of the groundwork done on suitability checks now that we do have this information. The next step is going to be to set up revolving accounts. That is something that we also included in the letter. Set up revolving accounts that will allow our investigations division to get started on these suitability checks. We're in a good position on revolving accounts. As you know, we rolled out revolving accounts as a pilot program to accept agent card payments. The program was very successful. So we look forward to opening that up to the remainder of our licensees for now time and effort as it pertains to consumption lounges. So information regarding on how to set up a revolving account with us will go out very soon. Last, the significance of the IFC meeting last week. So we're going to have now dedicated staff starting in October to help process consumption lounge suitability checks. And so those two items marry well together. Again, looking at hopefully in October or November workshop on consumption lounges to meet in the middle, both with internal development of regulations and the development of regulations from the subcommittees and the advisory commission. Two last administrative items. At the last month's meeting, the board voted to adopt a handful of regulations. Chair, at that meeting, you asked us to pull back regulation 11.015. You had asked for some additional information on that item that has to deal with independent testing laboratories and payments. Our staff, along with the AG's office, is gathering that information. So we look forward to providing that information to the board, likely by next board meeting. And then finally, just as an FYI to the board, we received a notice last week that a court had appointed a receiver over a licensee, a cultivation facility, pending this board's approval, similar to the action that this board took a month or so ago. There's a little bit of work left to do on the licensee side and the proposed receivership side. So that will likely come in front of the board, whether it's in an emergency board meeting or by next board meeting, once that work is finished on their side. But given the court order, I wanted to make sure that this board is aware that that item is coming. So with that, that concludes my director's report. Last week in that IFC meeting was a big day and a big week for the CCB. I just want to say I appreciate staff's work and our fiscal division's work in preparing those requests for the IFC members, and we are very pleased with the outcome of that. So with that, I'll answer any questions on any of those items.
I think it's important to note that in terms of improving staffing is really important for the ongoing operation of the industry and consumption lounges and other changes that are being made. What seemed to be missing from a lot of the stories in the paper was the fact that funding for cannabis compliance is based upon the money that's generated by the cannabis industry to the state of Nevada. It's not out of the quote general fund. If they're noting that cannabis is not producing sufficient revenue, our funding would go the other way. It's kind of like an enterprise fund. But they note in this situation, it's a need for an investment so that the industry can grow, and they were willing to take the chance based on projected income, and we thank them very much for that oversight.
I have a question about the upcoming workshop. What are you expecting that to look like now that the advisory commission is online?
So the advisory commission will likely, so once the subcommittees meet and they develop recommendations, I mean, some of those recommendations may look like draft language. Some may just be high points on what they suggest that we focus on when drafting regulations. And so, and then the advisory commission will hear from the subcommittees and vote as a group to send those recommendations up to the board. So board, here are our recommendations around these points of, in this particular case, consumption lounges. So the board would take them and they're non-binding recommendations, right? And then we would have a normally scheduled workshop on consumption lounges, hopefully in October, November timeframe, where we would take those recommendations, use those, potentially draft some regulations out of those recommendations, but then there'll be another chance for the entire public and stakeholders to provide even more input into those regulations. And that's at least in theory how this process should work.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. So the board will have its own workshop in October and November.
That's correct. It'll be a CCB workshop. Just as part of that, we'll use some of the recommendations from the advisory commission.
Okay, thank you.
Is that your conclusion report at this point?
Chair, that is my conclusion.
We note for the record, our next item is item number 10. Our next scheduled meeting date is September 28th, 2021. Unfortunately, I'm quite sure it will not be as slight as this meeting is today. Item 11, items for future agendas. If any board member, as always, has items, please get them to myself or our director. so we can go forward with them. And then we move to item 12, additional public comment.
Thank you, Chair. Is there anyone in Las Vegas here wishing to provide public comment? Please come up and state your name for the record.
Good morning, Chairman Douglas and members of the board. My name is Chris Levy-Gallicay, Deputy City Attorney for the City of Las Vegas. Here with me also is Attorney Jim Lewis from our office. We just wanted to thank the board and your staff for all the great work that you all have done so far. Just this short time frame, you guys have really hit the ground running and trailblazing in the state of Nevada with the cannabis industry. We also just wanted to offer our support and extend any assistance that we can offer to the board and the agency overall. Thank you.
We will look forward to comments from the city as to cannabis laws.
Definitely. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in Las Vegas wishing to provide public comment? All right, Chair, I see no more public comment here.
We are now to item number 12 or 13, our favorite one. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
We are in fact adjourned. Thank you very much for your support this morning.
That was the shortest one yet.